Hello, everyone. You're welcome to the Collateral Growth Podcast. And on this podcast, we talk about product, tech, and everything in between. I'm your host, Frances, and with me today is Dansteve, a full stack developer. So, like I said before, that we're going to be bringing in different kinds of characters to this podcast, not only product people, but people from other career paths in the tech industry. So, today we have Dansteve, and he is a full stack developer. So, Dansteve, please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Dansteve. I'm a full stack developer, working majorly on the front end. I started my career as a Java developer. I've had 8 years in the industry. I've worked in this industries like the education, fintech, transportation, and government. Um, I started my career as a front end developer, then I moved to a Java developer, creating desktop application. Then from desktop application, I started writing APIs. Then the APIs were SOAP APIs. Then from SOAP APIs, I moved to REST APIs. Worked with Python for a bit, then moved to Angular. And then from Angular, I started writing front-end frameworks like Vue, React, and what other Angular front-end frameworks we have. Yeah, majorly that. What else? I think that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, so how many languages do you know? How many program languages do you know?
I can't count them in my head. Let's count together. So we have JavaScript. And
Mm.
JavaScript, you have multiple framework, but everything's just JavaScript for me. And then we have Python. We have TypeScript is the subset of JavaScript. We have PHP. We have Ruby's own way. We have Java. We have um, Swift. We have C++. Then we have C Sharp. And I have .NET, which is a bit of C Sharp, depending on what you're talking about. And a bit of R because I started doing a bit of data analysis, R and Python.
So that's like 10 to 11 languages. Wow.
Yeah, it's like as long as you know the syntax, it's easier for you to convert from one language to another language. So
That's impressive. That's
thank
impressive.
you.
Okay, so what's been your career journey like? When did you start and how has the progress been?
Okay, if I'm to count um my education, I would say I've had about 14 years in industry, but post education, I would say it's about 10 years because I started writing code in 2010, and this is 2024 right now. So it's about 14 years. So after school, like I said, I started writing a bit of front end HTML, and I started doing Java. So Java in terms of creating desktop applications. So when I was working in the bank and working in institutions like HP, you create minor applications in Java and .NET. Then I crossed over to backend. Backend, I was doing purely Java. So we're creating APIs in Java, SOAP APIs. After a while, graduated to REST API. After creating REST APIs, I jumped into Flask, which is a Python version of creating API. Then I also did Laravel and Codinata. I don't know if it's Codinata or Codinate. I can't really remember the right pronunciation, but that was for PHP. And after a while, something stumbled in my head. I'm like, why am I always writing APIs? Why can't I also work on the presentation part of it? Sometimes I write an API, I know that it can be displayed in a better way than what it is. So I jumped into the front end part, which is Angular then. It was Angular JS, and we are still using scopes and controllers for people that understand that. And then I've been working with Angular ever since then. I started Angular in 2014 ish, either 14 or 15. And ever since then, I've been working Angular for the past 9 years. So I've also worked a bit with UI developers. So worked with creating, there was a time I was working on a project to create my own plugin for Figma. I was almost done with it because I've used it multiple times for myself. I've not just published it out. So, but it converts from Figma to pure HTML or from Figma to React, depending on it. I think there was a plugin I saw and I felt like the plugin was better than mine. So I didn't bother working on that. So that is my career in a nutshell.
Interesting. Sounds like a lot. Sounds like a whole lot. Okay, so why did you choose this career path? Why not anything else? Why did you want to become a developer?
Um, Funny story, I actually wanted to become a pilot, but I didn't choose to be a pilot for two reasons. It was quite expensive. And the second part was I had an encounter with somebody. So it was just the only one encounter. But in church one time, I met one of my uncle then. He was a software developer. I never even knew what software developer was then. Had a phone. It was a Symbian phone, and it had like a Bible app on it. So it was reading the Bible, and I was intrigued how you're able to convert the whole big Bible into something small and somebody can read portable. So I asked him and introduced me into um the term called software developer, what they do, that they build apps. I was very intrigued. I had to go to a cyber cafe, research what a developer is, research things like that. And the major tools then were just Java, HTML, .NET, and co. So I asked him I wanted to be a developer the next time I saw him, and he said he was going to give me a book. He gave me one of the famous Java books, and I was reading the book. I never even had the computer then, I was just reading Java as a book. Then I went into science class. Then from science class, I learned a bit of Mavis Beacon, where we are learning how to write, how to program, then not program basically. There was a part in Mavis Beacon, I don't know if you remember, it had HTML. Mavis Beacon always had like a web building part where you can build HTML codes. So that was like my favorite part of Mavis Beacon. So I was learning Mavis Beacon then. Then I went into
Okay,
computer science, and never then the rest was history.
interesting. And what year was this?
When I had an encounter with him was in 2007, 2008.
Okay, so since 2007, 8 till now, you are still intrigued and fully interested in continuing this career path as a developer.
Yes, I would say unlike other industries, computer science has grown in a very, very wild scale. Like almost everything is computer science. Everybody interacts with computer science or with computer in one way or the other. That's going as far as even glasses, microchips, things like that. Imagine those days where the only thing we could do with our phone was just call, and now we can do video calls, you can do video editing, you can do conferencing, you can do holograms. So it has grown, and now with the advent of AI, it's even going to go way faster because now most of those nitty gritty that most people spend time learning, you don't really need to learn it right now. It's now coming to a situation that it's just a book, and you can just read it and just reading the book and put you up to speed. So I love the fact that unlike other industries, like computer science is growing really, really big. And the fact that it can affect every part of our life. Everybody that I know right now, be it old, young, or the newborn, we interact with computer, either they like it or not. So yes.
Okay, okay, that's nice. So, what loopholes have you seen, or what loopholes do you think are there in your career path? What are those holes that you feel like, oh, I mean, being a developer is great. I mean, the whole um, coding and everything is great, but there are some other loopholes that being a developer cannot fill in total ecosystem. What do you think those loopholes are?
I think the three loopholes as a developer that you cannot feel. The first thing is leadership. Most developers are not leaders. I wouldn't say most developers can lead. I would say the fact that we are just stuck up on our laptop makes us forget that the human interaction is very important. And sometimes human interaction is not something you can code. Sometimes I wish I could just code somebody and respond to me the way I want them to respond to me, but apparently you
Interest.
can't do that. And beyond what you build is a product, but the product has to go to human beings, and human beings have to be interacted with. That interacted bit is there. One of the biggest loopholes for me as a software developer personally is work-life balance. And having to be able to manage your work and life and having meaningful relationship, having loved ones around you, family time, me time. It's very hard as a developer to be able to manage that, except you intentionally allocate time and things like that. So I think those are the major loopholes for me personally. Is more of finding time to have fun, finding time to have meaningful relationship and also knowing how to properly manage people's expectations and interact with people in such a way that everybody is not a program that I want to make perfect.
So you're saying now that being a developer has affected your relationships.
Yes, I would say being a developer has made me. So I once had a relationship with somebody that said everything I talk about is like I'm writing a code to fix a problem, and I see every relationship as a program that I need to adjust or fix. And somewhat it was true, and somewhat maybe not true, but it made me understand that when I see problems, I see it in the term of this is like a logical problem that can be fixed, forgetting that human beings are not logic. But human beings can be logical, but most of the times they are not fully logic. So logical solutions cannot really work for them. And most times when I come in from a logical point of view, and that might be a bit of a flow conflict. So you have to now understand that there's something called human interaction, human experience, making sure that you're empathetic, making sure that even though somebody has made mistake and you know that logically, well, that person is not supposed to make that mistake, right? But you need to understand that human beings are born to make mistakes and we learn from our mistakes. So yeah, I would say it has affected me that way. It doesn't really mean it's a bad thing. It's just that I see life in a different way. Just like a banker would see life as one as numbers. Is the way a computer science is seeing life mathematically, and that's logic.
Okay, that makes sense. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. So, what's a day like in your life? Like
Okay,
more typical day as a developer.
so typical day. Before now, I used to have multiple jobs in multiple time zones. I used to have in India, I used to have in the US, and we all know India is like 5 hours behind us, so I have to wake up quite early. But now I don't do. So multiple days right now will be like waking up in the morning, having my quiet time with God, 1 hour to 30, 1 hour, 30 minutes, depending. After my quiet time, I tend to play piano. I finally got a piano for myself and I'm trying to learn how to play. I used to play guitar, but right now I want to learn how to play piano. Then the next thing I do is at the beginning of the week, I have like my sticky notes that I just write out things I want to do for the whole week there, things I want to touch, the achievement I want to have for that week. So I go then look at my sticky notes, then determine what I need to close out today. Obviously, as a developer, we all know that we have to attend stand up. But because I work for a US company, my stand up is around in the afternoon, around 2. So I have to like do my work before the stand up. Then from the stand up, you have your daily scrum rituals. But majorly just meetings, writing code, talking to people. Sometimes go to the gym. I go to the gym minimum of 2 to 4 times a week, depending on my mood. But I also have a mobile gym in my house that, in case I didn't go to the gym for that week, I would be able to still do some workout.
Okay.
Um, while working, I tend to go to the balcony, sit down, look at the sky, just get my head out of the moon. Sometimes call loved ones, depending on how I feel. Like I said, I won't say introverted. I just realized that I'm not introvert. It's just I need to know my people. If I'm around my people, I'm not introvert. I can be an extrovert. For during work time and work period, I'm barely an introvert. So I just want to be on my own, try to figure out things by myself. But then again, I also tend to support my team and ask questions. And because I'm a team lead, I also have to call um, my colleagues, make sure that everybody's doing well, make sure that I create goals and achievements for everybody, and also make sure that we achieve the company goal as a whole.
Okay, so it looks like you actually have like a fixed routine that you use.
Sadly, I do, sadly, which is very hard. This is why I said, as a developer, it's very hard to fit in people and fun if it's not in the routine already, right? Because the routine has worked for me for quite a while. Now I have to understand that I have to now break the routine in such a way that I can now include people, I can include loved ones, I can include going out and having fun. It's not been easy. To be honest, I feel like I'm an infant when it comes to that situation. Because in my head, I'm like, oh, this is stressful. But then again, I understand that it is actually important to have things like that in your life because at the end of it all, it's the value that we put into others that stands to be our legacy, not just the work that we do.
Okay, so now because you work with logic and you work with routines, What now happens if you are woken up by a chaotic call? Maybe something has happened, there's fire on the mountain, you have to get up, you can't go through your normal routine at 4 a.m., blah, blah, blah. You're up, you have to get straight to work. What's that like mentally for you? Because you already have a proper routine, you're already working with logics, and then something's coming to disrupt everything that you have a flu for all of a sudden. How do you manage that?
I think I've experienced this over the years to be able to create a bounce back. So what happens is that as much as my logic and my routines are fixed, there are room for slacks. I call them slacks. Sometimes I have a call by 2 a.m., 3 a.m. saying that something is wrong, or sometimes my CTO calls me, or my CEO calls me, or my product person calls me and say, "Oh, something is not working well. The product is not doing this," and I have to like jump on a call. There was even a time I had a war room for 3 days. Like the meeting was up for 3 days. Like all you had to do was log in there and continue working. Right. So I've had situations like that. Yeah, they mess with you, but over time you tend to adapt because human beings, I mean, one of the key important characteristics of human beings is that we tend to adapt. So which is why I said it's just the more you do it, the more you adapt to it. Right now I can adapt to the fact that somebody can come in on a Saturday and tell me, damn, the server is down, let's fix it. I adapt to the fact that sometimes after church, I literally have to jump into a meeting. There used to be a time that I asked myself why, but I'm beginning to put a bit of would I say boundaries to make sure that the boundaries are clear only when it
Okay.
is high stakes. Um, because I work in the pharmaceutical industry, you can see that it's very tricky. So imagine you build something and the patient is using it, and the patient is between life and death. And you then have to go out with your family. So the question is, which one do you pick? So that's why you need to always know what priorities are. You need to always know how to align. And because I work in the pharmaceutical industry, it was a big struggle for me, knowing when to pick my own immediate family and knowing when to save people's life.
Okay, so like mini superhero in a way.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. But if you say that, why not?
Okay. So, what about the people that you work with? Who makes your work easier? That is, you work with different people, different stakeholders. You have your PMs, POs, Scrum Masters, other devs involved. Compliance team, customer support team, the key stakeholders, of everybody that you work with in making your products go, be proper in the market or to work well in the market. Who makes your job easy among all of them? Who's your favorite person? Your product manager, of course, but let me just leave you to say it by yourself.
I was about to say not to rub your ego, right? I would say for me there are three people that are quite important. The first is the product manager slash the product owner.
Mm-hmm.
The second is the QA because they actually saved my life, to be honest. Working in the industry like pharmaceutical, you understand that testing is quite important. And the third for me, which are like my heroes, which I tell them that my heroes my fellow colleagues that we work with together. Because sometimes you're stuck in a particular loop of thoughts trying to fix something, and you just have to ask the question, and like bam, 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 you figure it out, and life makes it easy. So for me, it is my colleagues first. They are like my superheroes. They help me. I help them. Is that synergy? Then the next thing is the product owners and the product managers. These guys are like wonderful because they think
Yeah.
about product in such a way that you yourself are like, I never thought about it that way. They are quite meticulous. They are quite they have a particular standard that makes product looks wonderful. Look at Nigeria as a whole. We all know that when Nigerian builds a product, when it comes to UI, when it comes to functionality, it's top notch. Because I'm not saying Nigerian, but product managers and product owners generally find time to make sure that the product is better, the product is targeted to the right audience, and things like that. I never even knew what audience was until when I started working with the product person and made me understand that, oh, when you're writing an application, you're also getting feedback from the right audience to understand that the application is hitting and solving the right problem you want it to solve. And like I said, we have the product managers slash owners, my developers, and my QAs because trust me, a lot of QA people have saved me a lot of time. Sometimes I push work, it's working well, but I've broken something else that I did not know, but they're able to
Normal.
find that bugs. So I would say yes. But the last part for me, I think the last people that they have less credit for are the customer support. Customer support because they are the first line of interaction to the customers. No matter what we build, right? If the customer support is not good, your product is not going to go far. Having the right customer support is actually very important to make sure that your product grows, which is where the product team works with customer support to get feedbacks. Then from the feedback, come up with ideas and ways to be able to address the feedback. Then it comes to us as the developers to implement it. Then after implementing it, goes to the QA person to then evaluate what you've implemented to make sure that you've not broken something. I mean, you see the chain. It's like a circle kind of situation. Then from the QA, it goes to production, and from production back to customer support, that particular kind of circle. So
Yeah.
for me, those are like the key important people for me that they've made life very easy for me.
Okay. That's nice. As your PM's being number one. Okay, so what's the toughest part of your career so far? What's been the toughest parts? What's been the toughest
Um,
things you've faced so far?
Just a couple. The one that happened recently was the company I was working for was got sold or got bought. I don't know which is correct, or
Acquired.
acquired, basically, right? And I had to transition from being just a principal engineer to also writing documentations, making sure that the company's documentation is good, filling a lot of works, having a lot of meetings, management meetings, making sure that the acquisition goes well. Even after acquisition, post acquisition, you have to have things like support for the application, things like that. Was really, really stressful. Or it was really, really mentally stressful. Another one was having to work and study at the same time. I tell people that one of the hardest thing to do, right, when it comes to computer science, or forget computer science generally, is to actually go to school and actually work. I'm actually impressed when I see people that go to school and work because it's one of the greatest struggle. You have limited time to actually do the work, and you have limited time to actually school. Now going to school and coming out with a wonderful grade is phenomenal, right? I tried it and I know that it is very, very stressful. So I had a situation where I was working, like I said, I was working two jobs and also going to school at the same time. And luckily or unluckily for me, the school asked me to become an assistant lecturer where I had to now teach people, mark results and things like that. It was chaotic, trust me. It was really chaotic. I had situations where I had to wake up around 3 a.m., join stand up, finish stand up, then jump to work, then after work, jump to class, then after class, jump to teaching, then after teaching, come back to work, then go to stand up. Then when you're done at like 2 a.m. in the morning, then because you can't sleep because it's 3 a.m. I mean, doing that routine for like Monday to Friday, then Saturday you're crashing like, log of wood. I mean, you can have an idea of what I'm trying to say. So it was one of the
So,
biggest challenge for me. Yeah, it was really chaotic. Then now having to now boil back to what I talk about having human relationship and fun, you realize that when you're in that kind of situation, it might be harder for you to invest time in that.
yeah, sounds like a lot. Sounds like a lot. So, what's the craziest thing that's ever happened in your career? What's the craziest thing you've ever faced that you're just like, nah, this is crazy. Like, from where to where? What's a
Hmm.
crazy that's happened?
I would say two things for me. The first one is that I have never been sacked before. Not like I'm boasting, but it's just a very crazy stuff for me because in the industry I'm in right now, I realize that it's very volatile. There's a lot of changes, a lot of regulations, and a lot of up and downs. And funny, I've never been sacked. That's still one of the things I thank God for. The second part is recently I started working with a team, and I'm the youngest. So I'm working with people that like are 55, 32, they're about, and they're like way, way older than me, that they have children that are quite older than me also. And having to create a standard between them, making sure that I can enforce the right thing and also making sure that I respect them. It's been a very, very dynamic environment because I have to be very careful. And because it is a very, very open environment where you have the people with different spectrums of genders, you have people in different countries, different um upbringing and background, it can be very, very tricky. So it's been a very challenging time because I'm having to pick between being responsible and humble and being disciplined creating standard and making sure that the company goals are achieved.
Okay. So what advice would we give to people that want to come into this career path? To people that want to become devs, full stack, front end, back end, anyone that they want to be? What kind of advice would you give to someone? They ask you, when I say I heard about software development, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to start. Is it even for me? What kind of advice would you give them?
Um, the first thing that software development is not for everybody, just like banking and civil engineer is not for everybody, just like aeronautical engineer is not for everybody. But can you learn it? Can you have an idea about it? Yes. Money is not for everybody. It's not everybody that's going to be a bank, but everybody knows what interest is, and everybody knows what, right? So the idea is having knowledge and having understanding around it. It's not about knowing it fully. So I think everybody can actually learn programming. It's just everybody cannot be committed, everybody cannot give the time and the consistency. For me, there are three things that makes a good programmer anytime, any day. Consistency, commitment, and being humble. Being humble in the sense that you need to understand that some people will notice more than you have, more than you know rather. And you have to be humble enough to ask them. You have to be humble enough to learn. The first humbling process for me, right, and I say this openly, was the time where I had to go meet my brother to learn something. And I was one that taught him programming, right? It was quite humbling because I knew I needed to know this thing. I knew I needed understanding. And I know that he has more knowledge on it than I do. So I had to ask him and say, you know what, please, can you please walk me through this? Some people will be like, no, yeah, I can't do that. That's the one of the biggest problems when it comes to learning. You need to be able to know that people notice more than you do, and people will also ask you for questions, and you must be open to support. If you don't have time to support, let them go. I don't have time to support right now, but schedule time with me. Let's support this together because I've learned from a lot of people. I've learned from quite a lot of people, and I think a lot of people have learned from me. I don't know. I don't have scorecard to tell about that, but I think that if you are consistent and you are able to be humble to ask questions and also give a response, and that would also make it very easy to learn programming. And most importantly, you will never get it right in the beginning. That's the truth. Um, the first
Also,
application I built,
um,
yes, and also listen to people, to be honest. The first application I built, right, I thought it was the best thing after sliced bread. Right now, when I go back to the application, I'm like, God, I can't imagine I built this, right? So, but there's that milestone of growth, knowing that you've been able to achieve something, you've been able to build something that is wonderful, and you see it going gradually. You see that okay, I'm able to build a one-page application. Next thing I'm able to build a 20-page application. Next thing I'm able to build a full stack application. Next thing I'm able to manage the whole team. That growth is there, but it doesn't happen in a day. Because of the environment we are in, people are working in fast pace. And the sad part is that knowledge is not given in fast pace. They are fast paced to learn things. They are fast paced to make money. But the fact is that it is fast because you are putting in more time and more effort. Right? Everything in nature has to balance up, right? The more time you put in, the more reward you get in. And there's an adage that says you want to learn a skill, I think learn in 1 hour a day, and in 1 year or 10 years, you'll be better, right? That's the idea. So putting that time and putting that consistency and that willingness to grow will help you. But also knowing that every failure and every mistake you have is a milestone. The first failure I made that I know I did very well was, I don't know, I was a backend developer. I deleted pod DB. It was a very
what?
big mistake. Again, that is where I said being humble and honest is. So I was humble enough to tell my database analyst that hey, I've deleted DBO. Luckily for me, luckily they used to run data migration and redundancy every time. As I spoke to him, I was like, oh, okay, no problem. Send an email. I wrote an email before I knew the DB was back up. I could have been struggling and struggling and struggling and trying to figure it out at that point in time, and nothing I would have done, right? So, which is why I knew that it's always easier to have communication, have relationship when you're working with people, because the more good relationship you have, the easier it is for you to do your job. And which is why again, I commend my product managers, I commend my QAs, I commend my fellow developers and my customer support or relationship people.
Okay. Thank you very much for that advice. Actually makes a lot of sense because that's like a clear breakdown on why not why you should like not just choose the career path, but like the kind of attitude. Because I mean, there are people that are devs or whatever career path people are in, and they come in with so much pride after a period of time, and there is no single humility to like really continue to learn. It's just always the I've been doing this for years. You can't tell me what to do kind of attitude. So having the right kind of attitude, when you're working with people is like really, really important. And you pointed that out, and that's awesome. Okay, so the next set of questions I'll be asking you are more relaxed. They're not, deep,
So I'm
deep.
gonna be relaxing right now.
Okay, so what's one new thing you learned last week? I mean, this week, because week is almost over. This week that passed, what's one new thing that you learned?
Hmm. What are you talking in terms of development or in terms of
In
general?
general, that's what I said is relax in general.
Okay, I'm very I don't know who the audience are, but one thing I've been learning to do this year is trying to read my Bible daily. And this week we've been talking about um blessings and battles. And I realized that life is always about up and down. And sometimes we get blessings that help us to fight the next battle. And sometimes we get battles so that the blessings can be worth it. And it's one of the things that dawned on me this year to understand that for every milestone that you cross, for every achievement that you cross, just be ready to know that that achievement will come at a cost, and that cost can be a blessing or a battle.
That's lovely. That's nice. Okay. Okay. All right. So tell us three fun things about yourself.
Hey, fun things. I love music a lot. I actually feel like if I didn't go into dev, I'll probably be a musician. Not because everybody like music, but I just have this hidden flair for sounds. And I love music like instrumentals. I can listen to instrumental all day without having a voice, like without having one voice on it. Which is why, like I said, I started learning piano. Let me show you my piano, just what you say. So can you see? I have a piano and I have a guitar. So I love music a lot. And most people don't know that I love music a lot. The second part is I love to play pool, that's snooker. I have two snooker stick in my house, so I play pool a lot. Um, it makes me relax when I go out with friends that knows how to play pool. I also bowl, like I do bowling a lot. Um, one more thing that is fun that I do, but not as often as people would love me to do it, is the fact that sometimes, emphasis on sometimes, I sing. Sometimes I sing. So I know
Christine.
as a pastor's son, you have to be in music. Like everybody knows every pastor's son has to be in choir. So I used to sing.
Yeah, this
And
pastor's kid thing, I feel like
yeah,
it's only my family that is like left out because we really miss a lot of things you people say. What is as pastor kid, you have to do this, you have to join. Like we've never been in the choir. We and my friends tried to force us. We didn't join. Like we've never
should
played.
I say you're lucky? I don't know if it's lucky or you're missing because I know how to play drum set because I used to be drum set in church. I started learning keyboard, I started learning the piano, I played the talking drum. Actually, I have my first picture ever of the instrument I have was me and I was 2 years old with a talking drum in my house. And the picture is still in my house. So I play talking drums, I play the drum sets, I play the only instrument I've never played is flutes. I've never played the air instrument, but any other instrument except from that I do that. There was a time I used to play is it conga? These two things in church. That's how I started with the conga. So yeah,
Interesting.
then I started singing. Fun fact that most people don't know: when I was singing, because of the nature of my voice, please don't laugh at me. I used to sing soprano, or most of the time I sing soprano. I was about always confused why I sing soprano. Well, I guess I mean if you listen to my voice, you know. So I sing soprano, but sometimes I sing alto for major soprano.
Okay. I'm not surprised I'm a soprano part though. I'm just I was surprised me how it's really going to sound, but to it's- so- all right. So final question. describe this podcast experience in 3 words.
Um, Lovely,
Good.
educational, and reflective. Reflective in the fact that it's been a very long time I actually talked about my experience with somebody, and genuinely is making me understand my own journey, making me reflect on my journey. I remember, as I'm talking to you right now, made me remember that conversation with my uncle. I can remember I was at the back seat of the church, we're sitting in the middle of the church, was wearing a white and a black shoe. I remember every detail just because of having this conversation. I and takes me back to the learning curve of my first website, my first mistake in dev, going out to be a developer, all the industries I've worked with, the amount of jobs I've done, the struggle to get a remote job in Nigeria, the working while schooling, the multiple time zone jobs. Like, it just made me realize all of those milestones, and I'm just wondering what the future is holding ahead.
That's lovely. That's really nice. But thank you so much for coming on this episode and for shedding so much light on the full stack career path. And we've come to the end of this episode. So, Dan Steve, thank you so much for joining us here. Do you mind sharing your socials for anybody that wants to follow you or reach out to
Hmm.
you and questions and whatnot?
If you want to reach out to me, I mean LinkedIn is the best way. Dansteve Adekombi is my name. My LinkedIn is LinkedIn/Dansteve Adekombi. Um, Instagram. I don't really use Instagram, but yeah, you can see me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Dansteve Ade. My Twitter handle is also Dansteve Ade. What else again? My GitHub um handle is Dansteve. So
Okay. Would it
yes.
be weird if someone reaching out to you on GitHub though?
Uh I mean, I've had people message me on GitHub using a gist and telling me to collaborate with them. So it depends. It really depends.
I mean, okay, maybe from a PM's point of view, it just seems weird. But
Yeah.
oh,
And yes, the first interaction I had with external developer was on GitHub, to be honest.
I mean, maybe for you guys, devs is pretty normal or something, but it just doesn't add up for me. But that's fine. Anyways, thank you, Steve, for joining this, and thank you. We've come to the end of this episode. I hope everybody found this episode helpful. And if you have any questions, I will drop my socials and Dancy socials in the comments of this or description of this episode so that I can reach out to any of us if you have questions about this career path or what's not. So thank you guys and bye.
Bye.